Philly beats Pittsburgh 27-13. Eagles now tied for the number 1 seed, as we mentioned. Pittsburgh had an opportunity here, to try and keep pace with Buffalo. They do not. So as a result, they now fall one game behind Buffalo in the hunt for the number 2 seed, for whatever that is worth right now. But really, more importantly than all of that to me is that the Steelers' offense was exposed. I mean, we've been waiting for it. We've been waiting over and over and over again to see what the Steelers' offense would look like against a truly great team. And guess what? It did not look good. It did not look good at all. No George Pickens. I think we had to expect some of this. But, man, the Eagles came out as I thought they would. They made a statement with their passing game. They made a statement that says, hey, like, you guys spent all week talking about it. Like, frankly, we sit here, Frank, every week, and we talk about the drama in the Eagles. You know what makes it right? Sundays when they go out and win.
Yeah, I went 10 in a row. Like, this is... Look, and I'll talk about this. I've already thought about it because I put a lot of time and effort into power rankings. We talk about it during the week, and as good as the Bills look today, they're not going to be my number 1 team. But the Eagles are the number 1 team in football right now. They've won 10 in a row. Like, there's nothing they don't do well. And you talked about Steelers offense, and I agree with a lot of your points. They couldn't run the ball today. They couldn't pass the ball today. Like, their leading rusher had 14 yards today. Russell Wilson had 128 yards passing. Like, this was absolute shutdown, but that's the way the Eagles defense has been playing for weeks now. Like, this Eagles defense is really good. And look, Steelers offense without George Pickens just is so limited that they're going to have problems, but Eagles are excellent on the defensive side. We all know Saquon is just having a marvelous historic season. And then they kind of said this week, look, we talked about it Friday, like, what's going to happen? AJ Brown's going to go nuts because this is the squeaky wheel game. Of course he did. 110 yards, touchdown, all that kind of stuff. Very predictable, right? But I think it was almost the Eagles saying, like, we're going against one of the best defenses in football. You want to question our passing game? Fine. Jalen Hurts, 290 yards, 2 touchdowns. Each of our wideouts goes for 100. We could do it all. We could win any way you want. Like, you don't think we could pass the ball? We could pass the ball just fine. So this Eagles team is so well-rounded, so good on both sides of the ball. They're clearly, if you're talking about, like, who has more balance between the Lions and the Eagles, well, the Eagles defense just blows the Lions away right now as far as just, matchup, which team has a better defense. It's the obvious answer is Philly. This is just a very, very good football team in every single way. And they do look like the best team in football now after the Lions took a really, really tough loss. We haven't seen the Eagles lose since, I believe, the first week of October. Like, this is a team on a roll. Very, very good football team. Steelers, I just think the Steelers kind of are who they are. They're very good. And I just have never trusted to say, like, yes, this team can win a Super Bowl. And I don't think you have either. Like, they're very good. Tomlin's put together a great year. I still think he's on a very, very short list for Coach of the Year, all this kind of stuff. But when it really comes down to it and they play a team like Philly, I just don't think they're quite on that level.
Look, Pittsburgh had 163 yards of offense, as you mentioned. The Eagles had 401. Pittsburgh managed 10 first downs in this entire game. Eagles 26. The time of possession was almost 2-1 in favor of Philadelphia. This wasn't just a win. This was an ass kicking in every possible way.
Against a good team. Against a good Steelers team. Like this.
Against a good
Steelers team. Maybe not great, but good. Very good.
But to your point, against a team that right now, if the playoffs started today, was looking at the number 3 seed, came into the day tied for the number 2 seed in the AFC, right? Like, so we're talking about a top playoff seeded team in the AFC. And what did we see? We saw that the Eagles will absolutely make you eat your limitations in every way, shape, and form, whatever those limitations are. And what did we see on the other side of it? Saquon was actually held in check for the most part in this game. So the Eagles came out and said, okay, we've got 2 wide receivers, can't stop. We'll just utilize them. Jalen Hurts was really good in this game. Jalen Hurts was really efficient in this game. It looked like the passing game was absolutely in rhythm and in control. And it's just a reminder, like, sometimes I think athletes, we all know they manufacture chips on their shoulders. Sometimes it's just on your mind where it's like, man, we got to focus on this week. And you come out the next week for all of the talk about drama and what's it mean. Well, sometimes maybe it's the kick in the ass that everybody needs to really get it in gear behind the scenes. Because this offense was in gear. The timing was so immaculate for their passing game. I just watched this and thought, yep, whatever the message was A.J. Brown was trying to send, instead of yelling about a receiver sending that message, maybe we should be praising him for doing it the way he did, because it woke that passing game up.
100%. And when you saw A.J. Brown speak at his locker this week, it almost seemed humored by how everybody blew this out of proportion, but it's Philly, But what he said really resonated. He's like, you know what? If I got to be the bad guy and say it, I'll say it. Our passing game isn't good enough right now. And he talked about last year when he was like, we were 10 and whatever, I think 10 and 2. And then we fell apart down the stretch and got boat raced by the Buccaneers in the playoffs. He's like, I'm going to speak up now. I'm not going to wait for this to happen again. I'm going to speak up now. We need to get better as a passing game. And he said, that's not Jalen Hurts I'm talking about. That's me. That's the offensive line. That's the play calling. That's Jalen making his reads. That's everybody in the passing game. And again, he said, if I got to be the bad guy here, I'll be the bad guy. And I think it did wake him up a little bit. And Philly will never get complacent. Not in that market. They've won 10 in a row. And it always seems like the sky's falling there for some weird reason, like you kind of alluded to. So good. I look at that as, after hearing what A.J. Brown said during the week, I looked at that as kind of a leadership moment for him to say, no, this is our standards higher than this. Even though we won 9 in a row at that time, our standards higher than this. And this is what we got to fix. And I'll come out and say it. And I'm not scared to come out and say it. They come out, they respond to that in a very, very positive way, have their best passing game in weeks, really, maybe of the season, and just kind of showed, again, we have something that needs to be fixed. Let's go ahead and fix it right now. And they did against one of the best defenses in the NFL.